Okay, it looks like all three have started their runs on Novus. With me here today, we have Vacant Shade, who is the creator of Metroid Planets.
Hello there.
And two of them are heading to the left, one to the right. Any thoughts or opinions on their choice of beginning areas?
Well, the right side has one item that can be checked with no upgrades, whereas the left side technically has two items. The one requires some damage boosting. So, obviously, a major item can be on either side, but you have a bit more chances on the left side. Whether that's intentional choice on the part of the racers, I'm not sure.
Yes, that is a very good question to be asking at this point. Okay, so it looks like Sawa's got her first upgrade of a missile tank, which is not maybe what they were hoping for.
Yeah, and it seems like
And
both Sawa and Murph check that damage boost item location.
let's take a good look at that map again while we're here. I'm going to take a wild guess here and say that Reigning Elementalist is likely to be the one who comes out ahead on this guess, but we won't know for sure. Still very early in the race. And a second missile tank.
And we have a viewer in chat asking about space jump. Space jump isn't normally accessible in the game, so you probably just saw a double jump in the fact of you can damage boost, which kind of gives you a second jump if you pull it off correctly.
An advanced feature, undocumented feature of the physics engine. Murph and Sawa are pretty much neck and neck in where they're running around to.
Yeah, it seems like Reigning Elementalist has a bit of an advantage here. They've already got Morph Ball, which opens up a lot of locations. But it looks like they're having a little trouble remembering where some of these items are. I imagine maybe they're not as familiar with the layout of this planet.
Yeah, it's not like you're going to have 20 years of time having mastered this one compared to, say, Zebus. So, unless you're playing this on a day-to-day basis and practicing it a lot, this one's probably going to be a bit less easy to remember.
So, for those not familiar with the planet Novus, it's an original design planet that's still keeps kind of in line with the NES aesthetic and style. It has a few things like you might be noticing. It allows for diagonal scrolling, so you see some of these larger rooms. It sticks to the original items in the NES.
Well,
though it does have a lot more missile locations, so there's more item locations to come.
it would be fairly fair to describe this as being a hybrid somewhere between Metroid 1 and 2. Mostly Metroid 1 with a few important bits of 2 in there. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I can see that. There's obviously some inspiration taken from Super Metroid, as you'll see some of the bosses that are in the game, and other games in the franchise. But yeah, definitely focus on Metroid 1 and some of the improvements that were made in Metroid 2 as far as technical limitations.
Map size wise, I would describe this as being a bit larger than the original Metroid. Not a huge amount additional, but there's a lot less filler space. Metroid 1, Zebes has notorious amounts of wasted space in terms of wandering around.
Yeah, it's the actual dimensions of the entire world could fit within the NES original world, but it's a lot more compact, like you said.
The hardest part about getting this to work on NES would be more the fact that the maps are not tiled the way the NES maps are, where there's a lot of repeated rooms over and over. So
Oh yeah,
getting it to actually fit in the NES might be a challenge without
yeah,
redoing
yeah.
large chunks of the engine. You probably could do it, though. So
So
based
let's
on where
not.
we stand right now, sorry, go ahead. I'll
Yeah,
let you take that.
I was just going to mention. Looks like Murph is our first runner to get to a new area. Looks like they're exploring Brainstorm.
They're making pretty good progress. It's pretty obvious they know exactly where they're going and how best to maneuver in this. Definitely watch Murph for any damage boosts. That's something that player is particularly good at. So if you're looking to learn new tricks for how to get through some of these areas, and struggled a bit with the drop on the morph ball, that particular room is kind of one of the nastier ones in this too.
Yeah, it seems Sawa's decided to stick around Criteria and check a lot of these other item locations. So we'll see if that ends up paying off in the long run.
Looking at the map information we do have, I'm going to say that it is going to be rather interesting. I think that bombs are going to be a significant headache for some of these players. More missiles, not much progress in terms of actual regular power-ups that they'd be wanting. But that just means they have to keep looking until what things they're looking for actually do start showing up. I believe you created this map yourself, correct?
Yes, I did.
How
So
long did
it's
it take you to put this together?
for its initial release, the world design and everything took probably about 3 to 4 months, including the AI and such for the new bosses. Um, though the world has been revised a little bit since the initial release. There's been a lot more detail added to Brinstar area, and most of Prague has been redesigned to make it a lot more interesting. So, all in all, it's probably taken 5 months of work or so.
That's actually a lot faster than I would have expected, considering.
Yeah, I think part of that was just that I wanted to keep to the uh, most of the original NES tiles. So uh, I think there's about 200 tiles, including all the palette variations used in the world. So having that kind of limitation definitely makes things simple.
Right. You didn't want to get too crazy with it overall. But at the same time, Murph just got screw attack. That is a game changer right there, but he's probably going to turn that off. Or maybe he won't.
Yeah, Radiant Elemental is choosing to go into Norfair first, which
It's
is
pretty
going to be a little
risky.
dangerous. Yeah.
One of the big differences in Norfair compared to the Zebus map is that you have lava falls, and these lava falls actually do damage when you're going through them to the sides. And so as a result, there's a lot of unavoidable damage from the lava in this area.
Yeah, it definitely requires
Oh,
some either knowledge of where good respawn, good farming spots are, or knowing where you want to go exactly and what the best route to take is.
I seem to recall you having said in the past that you spent quite a bit of time tweaking Norfair to get it to allow you to actually go completely through this without Varia.
Yeah,
And
a
it,
big part of the design, of course, I was trying to make use of all the items in the original Metroid because it is fairly limited. And so one of the things I wanted to do was try to make Varia and or the e-tanks kind of more valuable in opening up exploration. So that's where this kind of force damage comes into play. But I also wanted to make sure that people could still beat the game on hard mode, low percent, with very limited energy, and it be reasonable to do so. So that was important in doing the design of the world.
absolutely fair. After all, you're aiming this not just at new players who may not have had the experience in the original Metroid, but there are some pretty diehard fans out there who know this game inside and out, and you wanted it to be accessible to both types of players.
Absolutely.
And Reigning Elementalist is in one of the areas that I would consider a great demonstration of why you really kind of want to have Varia, if at all possible, or be completely comfortable with the map layout. This is a lot of unavoidable damage right here.
So they netted a missile tank, not what they were hoping for, I imagine. But Merce on Crate here, definitely making some good progress and progression wise. And
Remind me, that one is optional. You can skip that to go on to the other boss, right?
yeah, that is correct. There's two additional bosses in this planet over the original Metroid, and they kind of replace the uh, the original Kraid and Ridley as far as requirements to get into Tori. So the one Murph just fought is optional to get him an E tank, so he's probably happy about that. But definitely could have saved some time if he had avoided that fight.
Being that he is the only one with an E-Tank right now, I'm inclined to think that he is probably more than happy to have one at all.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Saw was going through one of the more notorious parts of Brinstar. This set of jumps can be a little bit challenging. You lose a lot of time for any mistakes you make, too. Murph is also in one of the more irritating areas. with some very, very careful jumping required.
Yeah, a lot of grade focuses on some type platforming, which high jump and or ice beam can help a lot in, but still is a little challenging.
Well, it seems that all three of them decided to wear comfortable platform shoes today, so I guess they'll be having no problems with that, at least so far.
Does indeed. Murph getting a second E-Tank, which is going to definitely be useful in the upcoming fight they're about to do. And it seems Raining's backtracked at Kachiria, hoping to pick up some health, probably, or perhaps try another route through Brinstar.
Unfortunately, he had to use missiles to get back out, which definitely did not help. And now Murph is fighting the first boss. Is he going to go for a damage boosting attack pattern, or is this going to be stock? It looks like it's going to be mostly stock. Based on what we are seeing on this, I would actually say that Murph currently has a fairly commanding lead just in regards to items and being right at one of the two critical bosses for this. Obviously, this can change at a moment's notice, but I would say right now, I would give him the advantage.
Yeah. One big thing is that Ice Beam is required in this run, and I don't think that Murph has picked that up yet. So if any of the other players happen to find it earlier, that will save them some time doing item hunts later.
This is admittedly true. Like any other randomizer race on this, there's a lot of room for interpretation. More so than Zebus, which is generally pretty straightforward. Looks like he's playing I'll farm your Metroid level to try to get some more ammo while he kills Kraid.
Yeah.
He
Looks
didn't
like
go and
reading
goes up.
Elementalist is kind of pinging there. Maybe they're not sure where exactly to go.
Yeah, if they were going to stop for a moment, you would have expected them to go into the map screen, pause the game, where the timer would at least stop for a moment. Sawa has a pretty good chunk of the Crateria area and a bit of the Brinstar area on their map, but they have not gone into any of the deeper zones yet. And Murph doing his damage boosting as usual. I imagine in whatever headcanon he has for Samus, when she leaves the house to go on a mission, she says, "Let's bounce," and then bounces off of an enemy into her fighter craft.
Mm-hmm. So Murph Mario just took a bridge through Torient that links Brinstar and North Fair, so that helps save a lot of time going between those two areas rather than backtracking through Criteria.
You'd prefer to avoid doing any backtracking if you can help it, but in a randomizer run, that's somewhat unavoidable.
Yeah.
And so having that back door opened up and a way to quickly get from one side of the map to the other without having to go all the way back up to the top really does help. Doesn't look like Murph or Raining have the ice beam yet, though Sawa does now have the screw attack.
Yeah, it looks like these players so far are really looking for those E-tanks, which are definitely proving to be hard to find on this sea.
Yeah, having looked at that, they are kind of concentrated, and so I think that's going to be a decisive factor in how this plays out. How well they search the area where all those are going to be. Bit of bomb jumping going on. That was a tight squeeze. And there's an energy tank. Murph is now at 4 energy tanks. Meanwhile, both of the other two are energy tankless. It looks like Sawa found bombs.
And Mario collecting 3 energy tanks in rapid succession there in North Fair. If it's too bad that Elementalist didn't press on just a bit further there in North Fair, they would have been able to get those. But obviously, that damage they were taking at the front there is just a little too much for them to be able to get this far.
Just looking at what we have here in terms of the overall collection of items, Ice Beam is essential, and so we can't say that there's anybody with a decisive advantage, but you have to admit that having 4 energy tanks does make a fairly big difference in the survivability, particularly when we get to the Mother Brain battle.
Yeah, for sure.
I believe you need 3 energy tanks to survive that.
Uh, you have to take about I believe it's like 180 damage that's unavoidable. So you need at least 1 energy tank if you can manage to go in with full energy.
Okay, 1 tank. Meanwhile, Murph seems to be going through the bottom sections of Hideout 2. He's not that far away from his next boss fight. So I was almost to... Uh-oh. Well, high jump saved him there. So I was almost to the first required boss in this case. Although I do have to ask, here's a thought for you. Looking at the map layout for Hideout 1 in particular, how do you think that Kraid gets in and out of there at all? There's a lot of one-block gaps in there, and he's way too big for that.
Yeah. Maybe he burrowed in from the side there on the right.
That's entirely possible. We never do get to see what's out there on that end of the map, outside of the map, so maybe there's another entrance we never got to see.
Another possibility is that the large grade was originally the size of the smaller grade, and it's been there the whole time, just growing larger.
That is entirely possible too. Although I do believe that at this point, someone might have to go have a talk with Sawa, because it seems like he's not doing this solo. He's got a mouse in his pocket, judging by where that cursor is.
Looks like Mark Martin's making his way to Super Ridley here.
Yep, I wasn't going to name the boss yet, because not everyone would be familiar with that, but now that the cat's out of the bag, I'm going to say that this is going to be the one point where those energy tanks are going to be even more important than fighting Mother Brain. I would actually go so far as to say that Super Ridley is the hardest boss in this by a mile.
Yeah, there's a lot of possibility for damage there. There's one point where there's an attack that, if landed, it can deal 100 damage almost without variant. So definitely knowing the boss patterns can help a lot and all that. But even with that, having that extra health is nice.
Yeah, when somebody told Ridley he should be grinding for health, I think he took it the wrong way. And on that note, I will say that if you play this one in cooperative mode with shared player health, this fight gets insane.
It looks like Sala's there in Super Crate, so we've got two big boss battles going on right at the same time.
Indeed. If Sawa comes out of this one in one piece, that would give Sawa a little bit of an advantage over Reigning Elementalist. But I don't believe they have Ice Beam, which you said was going to be necessary on this one.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
they don't appear to be taking advantage of Screw Attack. Uh-oh. Really low on health. Sawa may not make it. Oh, and Murph actually won the fight.
Yeah. And it looks like Reigning Elementalist is coming in here to Norfair through the back entrance, and this may be the key for them to make some progression, because they can get to some of these E-tanks here.
Sawa has respawned, which is a standard tactic for these races. People quickly picked up on how useful that is. Murph
Yeah,
is IPJing.
I'm not sure if Sawa respawned or they died. I couldn't quite catch the end of that.
Oh!
Because it looks like they're trying to get back to Super Crate.
Judging by chat, Sawa did get killed, unfortunately. And like I said, for both of the previous races this month, even if it looks like you're way behind, you shouldn't give up. It only takes one accidental death or a couple of slipped jumps or any dozen of other things that can happen to completely change the dynamics of who's actually in the lead.
Yeah, at this point, Sawa, or Murph rather, has both necessary bosses defeated, but they don't have Ice Beam, and with all the upgrades that they have, it could really be anywhere on this map. So it's going to be a big question mark where they're going to start looking first.
Yeah, that's a very good question on that. Unlike the Zebus map, you actually do have to kill some of the Metroids, and as a result, you cannot just bypass them with the screw attack like you could otherwise.
So Radiant Elementalists now having one E-Tank, they're probably feeling a lot better about that, and they're about to find a second one. So hopefully they'll feel a bit more confident about trying to go after some of these bosses soon.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't want to try to go after Ridley with one energy tank. Two is at least a little more doable, but even then, I'm not sure I'd feel entirely comfortable with trying to do it with that view.
Yeah.
To each their own. Murph certainly isn't going to be hurting for missile tank, sitting at a maximum of 95. So I was making another shot at Kraid.
Seems like Murph's focused on cleaning out Norfair, trying to check all the items here before looking anywhere else for Ice Beam.
Yeah, that may or may not play out well for him. And to be honest, I'm going to say it really depends on whether the item he really needs most is going to be down here or not. He doesn't really need any more missiles. Looks like Long Beam is still a missing an action item as well. Helpful, but not strictly necessary.
Yeah. Radiant Elementalist checking the vanilla wave spot and getting, I think, an energy tank there. So that's going to be some more help for them.
Definitely. With the amount of ammo Murph has been getting, you might understand if he felt that he was getting confused with Christmas time here with all the mistletoe.
Yeah, and as soon as seeing another missile tank opting just to go back out the door, it's really not interested in picking up any more of those.
Yeah, that's just time spent on something that he doesn't necessarily need, and he knows he doesn't need it. And yet more missiles. At this point, he's probably at least a little bit frustrated.
Yeah.
You can only get so many missile tanks before it starts to become a case of, okay, where did you really hide that? Meanwhile, Raining is back in the Brinstar zone. And Sawa is down in the Hideout 1 area.
From what I can tell, Rain Elementalist still doesn't have bombs, so Ridley's completely sealed off for them right now. They don't have bombs or wave beam. But Sawa has bombs at least, and seems to be checking out a bit more of Kraid's lair.
And yet another missile on Murph's end. And yet another one on top of that. And he doesn't even go for the third one. At this point, it's how many more do I really need? I imagine he is more concerned about seconds than he is missiles. Unfortunately, he doesn't have Simon Belmont with him, so no stopwatch.
Sawa taking on the mini Kraid here, the Kraid's lair. If he manages to take him out, he'll be rewarded with a new tank, which is definitely not a bad thing considering his current energy.
Indeed, that was one of the early things for Murph that helped him quite a bit, and Murph just got Ice Beam. At this point, I feel it is now safe to say that Murph has a commanding lead.
Yeah, say so.
It could still go completely sour for him, but honestly, not likely. We'll just have to see if the stress gets to him. And judging by what we have seen thus far, the answer to that appears to be no.
Yeah, I'd say Sawa's the closest they have. They did defeat the Super Kraid boss, so they have one of the bosses that are required defeated. So that puts them a bit more of a lead than Elementalist there.
Absolutely. No arguments from me on that one. As I've said many times in the past, and we'll say again, and I'll make this real quick, a lot of this comes down to a judgment call. You really cannot easily look at what items they have and say, this person has a commanding lead. Bosses are the closest thing you have to that. And Murph is now in Turian, and so we are now at endgame for him. Now, you were saying, Vacant?
Oh yeah, I was just going to mention about the Ice Beam location. It's interesting that the only thing that you needed to get to it was Morph Ball. So any one of the players could have picked that up very early in the game, which may have changed things a little bit. But
Yeah,
let
I was
them
a little
happen too.
surprised. I expected that somebody would have found that one relatively early, and the fact that they didn't was actually really surprising to me. Meanwhile, Raining is going through Hideout 1 further, hoping to find one of the several things that he is going to need to be able to make a shot at completing this. Now, their missile tank isn't quite what they were hoping for, I'm sure, but it certainly isn't going to hurt them.
Yeah, we're seeing some very solid gameplay from Murph, and that's really no surprise. Murph has had world records on this Novus planet in the past, and they're definitely very familiar with all the items and the various strategies for
Damage
doing these
boosting and
things.
just
Yeah.
getting from point A to point B as fast as humanly possible. You can tell this is definitely not a tool-assisted speedrun by some of the hits that have been taken. So there's definitely no cheating going on, just in case anybody may be concerned about that. That's definitely not going to be the case here, but you can definitely see the experience.
And
Uh-oh,
yeah,
that hurt.
Sawa picking up various suits, so they're probably feeling a lot better now with that. And they're in Ridley, so it looks like they might be trying to go for a Super Ridley, or at least the normal sized one.
Honestly, I'm a little surprised that Murph was willing to go back down there and refight that Metroid.
Yeah, when it comes to Mother Brain fight, it takes about 80 missiles for the second phase and 30 missiles roughly for the first phase. So having 120 missiles maxed out, that will speed things up. So that might be their idea.
Absolutely. I believe it's 32 missiles for the first horn. A nice round power of 2 number, standard issue for an NES game.
Mhm.
First form is down. Of course, that's not too bad. Here's where things get a little tougher, but having all those extra energy tanks makes all the difference in the world here. There's absolutely zero stress.
Yeah, you can tell Murph knows these missile counts here has gone exactly from 80 missiles down to 60. So not wasting any, but just what's needed.
Sawa has a few areas opened up that weren't there previously, but still a little behind. Sawa
And
can make it through to Ridley and kill it, then that would put them in second place, definitely. Murph's now at the next phase.
yeah, Rain is fighting Super Kraid, going in there with not much health, so it's going to be a bit dangerous, but we'll see how it turns out for them.
Unfortunately, no screw attack either. Screw attack would make it a lot easier to recharge from.
Oh, yeah.
Without that, I believe that's, yeah. Unfortunate, but took just a little too much damage. Meanwhile, Murph gets himself pre-positioned for the next phase transition.
And looks like that's the end of that for Murph. He's just got to do the escape, which shouldn't be a problem at all.
Absolutely, that's one thing that doesn't change no matter how you randomize it. As a result, I would say the odds of this going out extremely cleanly are really good. And Sawa is now fighting Ridley.
So now on the low item percentage, One of the items that
Uh-oh.
really helps with Ridley is weight.
So it
Unfortunately,
just got
some of it.
himself into a really tough scrape there.
Mhm.
Yeah. Uh-oh, and again.
Yeah, this is going to be a close fight. It looks like Saw is really
Uh-oh.
trying to go for that taking damage, but uh,
One
may
more
take
hit.
one more
Yep.
hit. Uh, yeah, really
That
only had
grabbed.
maybe 10 or 15 missiles left at most. It's an unfortunate result there.
Murph is making rapid progress on his way out the door. Had to go back for one more item. So confident in his lead that he went for that one last item.
Either showing that he's very confident in their time or he's not taking things too seriously. One or the other.
Or both. So Raining is taking another shot at Kraid. Let's see what Murph's time is going to end up being here. 42:30.
Yeah, very good time for a randomizer. Any
Well, the map
percent
that's
world
this
record is somewhere around uh, 35 minutes. I have to double check that.
on random or default.
Default, but no. Yeah.
Yeah, being within 10 minutes of a default run is actually pretty good for a randomizer run.
Well, it's actually down to 27 minutes now.
Impressive. Oh, those additional damage hits on Raining are definitely not helping here. Nope. Yep. The real question now is, will Sawa be able to get past Ridley?
Hmm.
If Sawa gets the Ridley kill on this run, then we have pretty much got our second place lined up. Okay, are we going to go ahead and bring Murph in for an interview now, or should we wait until the race is completely over?
We'll see if they're available for an interview. Go check.
They might still be on their victory lap. Meanwhile, Sawa's continuing to work his way back towards Ridley for the rematch. Raining is probably feeling a bit stressed over having lost to Kraid like that. That's the sort of thing that can leave you really demoralized. And it looks like our champion has just arrived. How are you feeling? Or maybe he can't hear us yet.
Yeah, let me double check the.
I forgot.
So
I had pushed to talk on. Forgot about it.
Oh, okay. You can hear us then.
That would definitely do it. So how are you feeling about your run?
I feel like it could have been better, but overall it was pretty good.
Well, you did have a fairly commanding lead, so I don't feel like there's a whole lot to complain about. Was there anything in there that you felt was notably problematic that you wish you'd approached completely differently?
Yeah, I wish I didn't mess up that bomb jump in Ridley. Though it's probably a good thing because I would have went for mini Ridley. And I don't know what he has.
So that bomb jump was that to take the shortcut from the entrance into the deeper part of Ridley?
Yeah, it was.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a pretty tricky one there.
It's easier if you have Ice Beam because you can just freeze one of the flying enemies.
Would you
And,
say that the ice beam really did act as the linchpin for this entire run?
I would say so. I would say so. Yeah, because I had no clue where. Because I had absolutely no clue where it was.
Well, to be fair, it seemed like all three of you were struggling a bit with the ice beam location. So that's only to be fair on that. Although the energy tanks on this run were really concentrated, as you have figured out for yourself pretty quickly there. And I feel
3 energy tanks were high jumpists.
that really was one of the more important things you actually found, in my opinion. It's what allowed you to get through some of the later boss fights with less stress involved.
Maybe I should
Ridley
have
being
skipped.
harder.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Maybe I should have skipped Faria because I had lots of tanks to begin with.
Well, I mean, that's only if you know where it is. If you go there and it's right in front of you, you might as well pick it up, right?
Mm-hmm.
You had picked up Varia. Was it after your Super Ridley fight?
Before.
Before. Okay.
Any thoughts on things that you felt went really well on your race?
Of course, yeah. Going to trade first went really well as it usually does.
Right, that's a big difference from Zebus, where going into Hideout 2 may actually be the better place to go first in a lot of cases.
Yeah, Cray just so close as long as you have dams to traverse it. It's not too bad.
Mm-hmm.
I did
And
have to
while
farm. So I did have to farm a bit on during the crate fight though, not knowing he was like literally one missile away from death.
Meanwhile, while we were talking, Sawa managed to kill Super Kraid and now has both of the bosses down. Excuse me, Super Ridley.
Yeah, now it's just down to their search for Ice Beam, so not really sure how long that's going to take. It depends how long they stay in Norfair, I guess.
Absolutely. We can say with complete certainty, because the streamers are definitely not watching this, that they don't know that it happens to be pretty close to the beginning of the game. So They could spend a bunch of time digging around in the deeper sections, or they could head back up and find it immediately. You never know.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one thing,
So,
Murph, we were talking about on, I believe it was the Zebus race, is that in the future we might be seeing a randomizer mode that brings in some of the new items from Enigma into the Zebeth and Novus map. For example, Spring Ball or Space Jump. As somebody who's really familiar with Novus and the 100% route, how do you think that's going to change things?
I'm not 100% sure. Both items have their utilities. Spring Ball could help with like getting through like those small air entrance cores, while Space Jump could help. While Space Jump could help with getting to pretty much anywhere. I'm being
Yeah,
honest.
that's true.
but no confirmed hyper beam yet.
No,
Nor
don't want to
plasma
jump
or
on the
spacer.
hype train for
Not
Hyper Beam.
not sure how you get Hyper Beam considering how the Mother Brain fight works.
Yeah, I feel like I would dread going into too much detail about that sort of thing. And yes, that choice of terms was deliberate.
And
I'm-
ranking managing to take down Super Crate, so they are on their way probably to Ridley next.
That puts both of them at not that far away from each other in terms of what they need to be doing. Both are really close to endgame. Question is Sawa going to find Ice Beam before Reigning Elementalist finds what he needs, or is this going to end up being a just a straight follow up from where we are? I imagine you're feeling a little thankful that this race didn't include any of the surprises from this month's Secret Robot Wars.
I really am, yeah.
On the bright side, you could say that the one who won that race yesterday really did have a tool-assisted speedrun from a robot. Looks like Sawa's heading back out of the Norfair area. That gives even odds on whether they're going to head to where they need to be going.
I think I might leave this chat. I don't know if I have much else to say.
That is fair enough. But thank you again for joining us for this month's races. And we look forward to hopefully seeing you again for next month's races.
Hopefully, it depends on how my new job goes.
Good luck with that.
Thank you. And goodbye.
Bye for now.
All right.
So meanwhile, we have Raining back in the infinite bomb jumping. Sawa's continuing to dig around in Upper Norfair. I believe we can go ahead and take Murph off of the list for the moment. Lots of additional climbing. And this is the room that I really had in mind when I said earlier that trying to go through here without Varia is kind of a pain.
Yeah, definitely.
Lots of unavoidable damage. Yet another energy tank.
Yeah, it went from the beginning of the game really struggling with energy, and now here at the end, really more than any of the players will need, probably.
Probably, yes. I would not be surprised if there's a certain amount of frustration right now, just asking, okay, where is that last item? Why can I just not find the one thing I need to finish it? You remember last year we had one race where it actually turned into a 100% on Zibus just because of the fact that all the missiles were front loaded and getting the items you needed to actually finish it were the last item being the ice beam, of course.
Yeah.
It was just way out there. Okay, I overstated. It wasn't a straight 100%, but it was pretty close. People
Hmm.
were sitting at like 90 just because ice beam could not be found.
Yeah, I've seen a race here where um, there was one player who had a very strong lead, and the other player was significantly behind, but uh, the player who was behind just happened to find Ice Beam, and the player with the lead, they couldn't find it wherever they were looking, and the player who was behind actually managed to take the lead.
Yep, that will happen. And that's exactly why I try not to make any blanket statements about somebody having a guaranteed victory. Is something like that can turn things around. Not unlike having your tire blow out in the last lap of a race.
Hmm. It looks like Sawa's exhausted all the item checks in Norfair, and they're headed
Back
up
up.
the Brinstar. Or Criteria, I should say.
Well, maybe not 100% of the, but now they're at pretty damn close to that. So what remains is for them to decide where they're going to search next.
Yeah. Looks like Criteria for now, though they could move over to Brinstar pretty easily as well.
Yeah. The way I see it, the choice that they have to make is, are they going to go ahead and search the rest of Criteria while they're here? Or are they just going to go straight down to Brinstar and start digging through that? And I believe the answer to that appears to be they are going to go ahead and check out the rest of this area.
Hmm. Yeah, it looks like Reagan's going back up to Criteria instead of going to Ridley, so they must be wanting to get a few more items just to help them out.
Yeah, that does seem like probably what they're feeling is a bit of stress about what they're having in terms of gear. Most likely energy tanks, considering how much of a struggle they had with the Kraid fight earlier. They probably do not feel entirely comfortable with trying to go after uh, the Ridley fight with what they're running. So I was now digging through. Uh-oh. Are they heading back over towards... Let's see here. Okay, they're exiting that area and going back up for a bit further. Yeah, unless Sawa completely misses where the ice beam actually is, and that seems a little unlikely. I would say Sawa's pretty close to getting what they need to finish this off. So very careful bombing on Raining's part.
Yeah, this is the only item in the game that requires some infinite bomb jumping. Normally holds an E-tank, so we'll see what this location has and minimize.
Yeah, I remember my reaction when I first saw this room was a little bit surprised. You don't normally see that sort of thing show up in a regular Metroid map where it requires you to take advantage of advanced tricks.
Yeah, I think probably the closest thing we've ever seen to that is some of the Shine Spark puzzles and perhaps Fusion or Zero Mission, which
Right.
not everyone's comfortable with those for sure.
Just another missile tank. If I were Raining, I definitely would be more than a little bit irritated with that. And he went back to his ship. Is he going to head to the left or to the right? Oh no, he's heading to the left. Or maybe not.
Seems a little unsure. There's a lot of options. Sala did pick up their ice beam, so they are headed to Toria now and go.
And that's what I miss when I look away for a minute.
Looks like they're wanting to check this one last item here, just in case.
That said, I have to say I'm not sure they have a whole lot of options. This, after all, is not a Gradius game. This is Metroid.
Mhm.
It looks like Raining was going to try to boost through that, but that's not going to work.
Yeah, randomized is a particular challenge here on Novus just because the sheer number of item locations and there's no separation between major and minor item locations. So uh, these key items can be really anywhere on the map.
Indeed, whereas the big issue with the Zebus area is that with the sheer number of missiles that are available, you really cannot uh, be guaranteed to find anything but tons and tons of missiles.
Hmm.
That in itself can be an entirely different type of challenge.
Yeah. With the equipment that Sawa has going in, there's really nothing to be worried about now. They have more than enough energy and missiles to handle Torian. So it should
Yeah,
be a fairly straightforward run from here.
barring any complete absolute lapses of judgment, I would say that this is pretty well in the bag. Uh-oh. More of a time waster than a real threat. but still not something you want to have happen.
Yeah, I don't think we've seen any of our racers pick up a wave beam in this world, and that is one thing that's slightly different. The ice and wave beam will stack, and that comes into play a lot here in Torium because there's so many Metroids that are behind walls or Sabotites that having the wave beam and ice beam can really help in navigating.
Let's see, looking at the map, it appears that it is over near... Actually, I don't think I see it on my map.
I believe it was in um, the elevator on the left.
Okay.
With
Yeah, that got a little bit of blockage on that part of the map, so I can't see
yeah,
that as clearly. But yeah, that does appear to be it. I couldn't tell if that was something else or that, but... So right over by the entrance into what looks like Brinstar.
yeah. So kind of out of the way. Most players, I think, had high jump going into that area, which high jump is required to get to that item. But you also need either wave or bombs. So obviously, in this case, bombs, and that was down in Crade. So not really a good spot for wave beam to be acquired in this run.
Right, so not so different from where Screw Attack was on the Zebus run, where you would have really had to have gone well out of your way in order to actually have dug that up. Good use of freezing on Sawa's part.
Looks like
88.
Ring Elementalist found the long beam, so that is definitely not necessary, but could be helpful for them in the Ridley fight or just Emporium.
Absolutely. Sawa seems to be face tanking for maximum effectiveness. Done with the first phase and now into phase 2. Then on into the next phase. Raining does not have enough health. Oh, talk about playing risky. Without having various suit.
Yeah. Thankfully, they do have bombs, which makes quick travel through Norfair a lot more feasible. So if they do end up taking a respawn here or a death, we'll be able to get back fairly quickly.
So I ran out of missiles, but still has enough energy to claim the victory. Now Sawa just needs to leave, which generally isn't what I'd consider to be the hardest challenge in this, but again, last second stress can get you killed.
Yeah, the escape in this is fairly straightforward. There's a few branching paths that can be A little bit confusing, but they all generally bring you to the exit. It really only becomes a challenge if you're missing certain key items like bombs. If you have wave instead of bombs, it can be a little bit more tricky because you have to know how to hit those destructible blocks ahead of time to make it through.
Right. And additionally, it's not quite as open as the one in Super Metroid, where if you don't know the route, that can be really, really stress-inducing, but this one still can loop you in circles if you're not paying attention. So,
Yeah.
your first run is always going to be the hardest for that. Whereas the one in Zebes is mostly going to be about, tight squeeze with low energy, and didn't quite pull it off. It looks like Raining really kind of does need that Various suit.
Yeah, they might be holding off on Ridley before, trying to get that various suit before going in there, but that might be a bit unfortunate because various suit is in Ridley, so.
And Sawa, too, goes for the last item. A certain level of confidence that they have their second place finish in the bag, which gives Sawa a first place and second place completion today. Well, I guess we should probably check and see if Sawa wants to make any comments.
Yeah, I'll go ask them, see if they want to show their replay and then come in for an interview.
Let's see here. And we'll get a good look at how much of the map Sawa hit during that run. Novus being a bit more complicated typically ends up turning into a fairly large chunk of the map.
It looks like Rain's going after Ridley now. There's, like we mentioned before, various suit and a couple of E-tanks there that might help them in the upcoming fight.
Yeah, I'd say at this point they probably are feeling that it's a really risky move to take, but it definitely doesn't feel like they have much choice either. They've hit up pretty much anything else that they could. So at this point, they're going to have a little bit of faith that what they need is going to be in this area, or at the very least, they're going to be hoping for it. No screw attack, so not a lot of options for self-defense there.
And yeah, it looks like Sawa's gonna do energy here in just a few moments. So.
And Raining got the Various suit. Well, that was one of the big things they needed for this. Now, Raining just needs to finish off Ridley. And hello, Sawa. Congratulations on your second place finish.
Wow. Then I missed ice and it was just like right under my nose. That was pretty devastating.
So I do have to ask you, how was your team doing on this race? Because I noticed you certainly weren't playing it alone. In fact, I saw the mouse in your pocket, or rather the mouse cursor on your screen.
Yeah, so my 6-year-old, and I was trying to flip back and forth between the map.
Yeah, I know how that goes. Just had to make a little bit of a crack about having a mouse cursor up. That said, how do you feel about your run?
I'm frustrated with ice being right under my nose.
I can't say I really blame you. That was the item that was really not easy to find for whatever reason this time.
But, it was kind of fun, going into, Brinstar, getting almost everything, going into Kraid, dying to Ridley. And another point of frustration was I missed the jump to get up to the top part of the top left part of Ridley's area, where there was 2 energy tanks. And if I would have just gotten those the first time I went through, I wouldn't have died to Ridley.
Yes, energy tanks can make all the difference in Novus, believe me. I do understand that one. Is this going to change how you approach your next race, or do you feel like there's so much that can change that there's not really much to learn from it?
I mean, there's some optimization up in the criteria area. Like, I think I do a pretty solid job of going to the left, getting the damage boost missile right off the bat. That opens up, like, getting that missile so I can get past the missile door so I can get at the other area, like the other items, like, where long beam normally is supposed to be.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's a good solid chance there of getting, like, 6 items. Some of them, nested deeper than others, which might be, like, an important, screw attack, ice beam, various suit, whatever. It's always about the chances.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with you on that. So do you feel good about having done as well as you did on these 2 races, though?
I feel better about Zebeth because I was going through there. Enemies are coming. I'm slashing through enemies. I'm moving horizontally as fast about as horizontally you can. Um, with high jump coming in so early, I'm not really exactly used to high jump momentum. So Brinstar, I was getting slapped around by tentacles and eaten by flowers, and it was just overall very frustrating. You lose a lot of time just taking knockback damage.
Definitely, you can understand that. Any thoughts on your end, Vacant?
Well, I think that the run went pretty well, considering how few E-tanks. I think that was a big factor too, and that there was just so few E-tanks on the left side of the map, and that's kind of the opposite of where people go usually, because the easier part of the map is on the left. Brinstar's a lot less damage heavy than Warfare, but because of that, Kraid was a lot bigger of a challenge than perhaps normally. So,
did anyone else die to Kraid?
Well, I think Rain died. I'm not sure if Murph died. I want to say that they might have died to one of the bosses. I'm not sure if they died to Kraid.
I died to both of them after they color changed, so they were right on the edge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think that was one of the big challenges that it seemed like everyone was struggling with to a certain extent.
And it seems like Norfair's items is quicker if you go from the top down. Is that right?
Well, it's kind of like in Brinstar, there's items. There's kind of 2 different routes you can take through Brinstar if you're comfortable with morph bouncing or unmorph jumping. And so there's items kind of split between those 2 paths, whereas in Norfair, it's kind of like a winding path back and forth straight down. And the items are along that. So in a way, Norfair can be a little faster with the item collection.
No, I mean if you start from the bottom and work your way up versus you start from the top and work your way down.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like if I had ice, and I could have backdoored through to get the wave. I mean, I would be disappointed if there was just missiles there, but it feels like I've been able to bomb jump into there easier before.
Yeah, Norfair can have a lot of dependency on what items you go on there with, because Ice Beam can help with some of those items to get to them more quickly. And of course, bombs just helps you get bombs or waves help you get through the main center.
Yeah,
area a lot easier. So.
Do you have plans to put a Crocomire in?
We won't be seeing any new content for Novus, but there will probably be a boss for Norfair and Enigma at some point. I don't think we'll ever see Crocomire specifically, but we'll probably see some sort of boss for Norfair.
I mean, if we have Spore Spawn for a Brinstar-like area, what would be the natural progression for Norfair?
Well, I know a lot of people would like Crocomire, and that could be cool. I think the main challenge with Enigma is to bring a boss that not only will work as far as challenging wise, but also can be suitable for a variety of room designs. And Crocomire's general concept is very limited in its room design. You don't want the player to easily be able to jump over them. You want them on a flat, you know, horizontal surface that leads to lava. So unless you change Crocomire up dramatically and how they function, like, in the game mechanics, it's not going to work as well as perhaps some of their super bosses. So we might see something that's kind of another take on Crocomire, or something completely different. We'll see.
I mean, there's always a chance for some real nightmare fuel.
Yeah.
So, like, the movement mechanics between Spore Spawn and Phantoon technically are pretty similar.
Yeah.
And I've seen Game Maker does, like, I've seen somebody else make a Phantoon fight in Game Maker type program, and it was actually very interesting, very enjoyable.
Yeah. It'll be cool to see those end planets, however they get implemented.
And I would like to see. Do you have plans for making like another, like, planet that's not, that's similar to Novus, but like a Novus 2 or something like that?
Yeah. Enigma was not really planned. Originally, the concept was to go from Novus to another original world design, so there's already some concepts for that. But
Okay.
Enigma it became obvious that it was going to be really beneficial for just, the community being able to get involved.
Oh, especially the community.
Yeah, so I think it was a good choice to choose that first over another original world. And I definitely want to get Enigma completely ironed out and finished before moving on to something.
Because I could definitely see like another world with maybe even skipping out Norfair entirely and replacing it with a wrecked ship area. And then we'd be able to have the 4 bosses.
Yeah. Yeah, I think if we do see another world in the future, it will have...
or maybe just all 7.
Yeah, it'll probably definitely have more original content and such.
Is there any features pending for like underwater, like a Meridia? We already have like water-like physics with lava.
Yeah. Water is planned for Enigma and potentially future planets, but it's hard to say exactly when that'll come into play. One of the big things for water to be done successfully is to get the visual feel right. There's already been some experiments in that regard to try to find something that works with what's already there and still feels Ness-like. So some progress is being made, but there's just so many things that can be added, and it's just a matter of what seems to be the most important right at the moment. So
Sure.
We will hopefully see water in an update, but it'll probably be a little.
Now, like when I first joined, it was like 1.27D.
Oh, okay.
What came first, Enigma or Novus?
Novus, the original game, actually was released with Zebeth and Novus with the randomizer and hard mode, I believe, all packaged together. So that was all on the very first release, and then strike mode and the connect feature, and then eventually the room studio and Enigma.
How long did it take you to make Novus? Like, just the layout.
That's a good question. We actually talked a little bit about that on the stream earlier. It was about 3 to 4 months, and uh, the original Novus had some differences. Most notably, most of Kraid's lair has been completely redesigned since the initial release. So that and a few other things here and there, probably another, month or so. So 4 to 5 months total working on Novus, and that includes designing the bosses and their AI.
Between 1.27D and G that we're at now, did you take out a ledge in Norfair in the main shaft?
Mm, not that I'm familiar with. I think Norfair, that center room, has remained mostly the same since the original release.
Okay, that must be my just mind playing tricks on me because I thought that there was a little bit more of a ledge where like the back spot is where to backdoor into Wavebeam. I thought that was a little bit more accessible.
Yeah, I think the main way you can do that is probably by freezing the Ripper there. Otherwise, it is very difficult.
It'd have to be. Because I remember doing that actually on my first 100% when I first found it.
Mm-hmm.
All in all, I'm just so impressed at the complexity and the amount of paths.
Yeah, that was, I think, mostly due to just the intention behind it. Before I designed Novus, I had recently gotten into looking at randomizers for Super Metroid and playing a couple of those, and then watching people. And I think my main uh, uh, concern with making Novus was just making the start and overall making it a bit more open, so that randomizers could have some more freedom there. So that's probably why it feels more open.
Well, thanks for letting me pick your brain on some of these core questions.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for the run today for Zephyr and Novus. Great having you, and hopefully we'll get to see you in any future races that happen to be held.
Well, thanks for definitely taking part in this month's race again, and we'll hope to see you again next month. And that leaves us with our last racer, who is still working on getting a clear.
Yeah, it looked like they mentioned in this Discord chat here that they were going to give Ridley one more try. I guess they're having a bit of trouble with Ridley, and so
Yeah, not
just
having
hoping.
any major weapon upgrades does make that a lot harder.
Yeah, they do have a various suit now, so that hopefully will help them. It might take some time to farm a bit more energy before going into the fight.
So where was Wave, by the way?
Wave is in the elevator from Criteria to Green Star. So that required having bombs and high jump. Though you could bomb jump up there, but high jump is in logic for that.
Does raining have screw attack?
No, I'm kind of surprised they didn't find that because I think they went through Brinstar once or twice, though that item location where screw attack is a bit more obscure. It's not really marked by any tile or anything.
I believe that's probably one of the two things that's giving them the most trouble. The lack of weapon and the lack of screw attack. Screw attack can cover for not having a good weapon, although when you run out of missiles against Ridley, that's still going to be an issue.
Does screw attack do damage on Ridley?
No. It will prevent you from taking any damage from his body or fire or tail. I think considering the amount of energy that Raining Elementalist has and the amount of missiles, I think they could probably safely just face tank Ridley and still come out the victor here. So we see Raining Elementalist choosing an interesting strategy here, hanging out in the lava, which obviously is netting them a lot of damage, but they did avoid the grab attack there because of it. It's really the only way to avoid that, so it seems to have paid off. They finally defeated Ridley, and now they just need Ice Beam.
I guess sometimes even Samus needs a little bit of a lavatory break.
You know, that grab is so cool. I sometimes find myself just, I just take it anyway. That's cool to see.
Yeah, I had some different ideas for what to implement with Ridley because I really wanted to make it feel exciting. Another concept was instead of a grab that dragged you along the ground there's two empty screen spaces at the top of Ridley's arena on the left and right. I thought maybe instead of dragging you along the wall, he could smash through the wall and toss you into there and throw some fireballs at you while you're in there. But that would have been a lot more complicated to program, so I chose something a little simpler.
Hey, it's good the way it is. I don't like how the rocks keep on falling in Kraid's fight.
Yeah, that can be a challenge. Wave Beam helps a lot with that, or Screw Attack, but either way, it does slow things down.
If there was maybe 2 more squares of height, so to make square attack more viable, I would appreciate that.
So the ceiling was a bit taller?
Yeah. The ceiling is
Gotcha.
pretty low for because by the time that you see the rock coming down, there's no time to screw attack it.
Gotcha. Yeah, I could see that.
At this point, it looks like Wave Beam or Ice Beam. Well, I believe Ice Beam and Wave Beam are both needed, right?
Just ice.
Okay. So that's going to be the one thing that's going to need to be dealt with now. After that, they can go into Turian and finish things off.
Yeah.
Don't
From
think you're
that
going to be getting up
brief look at the
there.
map, yeah, it might be a bit of an item hunt here because from what I see on that map, it looks like Rain Elementalist has gone through the room that leads to Ice Beam, but did not check the secret. And I'm fairly certain they had to have Morphball at the time of going into that room, so they might not even be aware that secret exists.
Well, they're heading back to the right. They might have gotten some advice from somebody, or they might have just been inspired to check. Doesn't really matter either way. Hopefully they'll be able to find it soon for their own sanity's sake, considering the frustration that's definitely going to bring. But oh dear. They're going to try it anyway. This is not going to end well.
Yeah, they won't get past the first room here.
You can't just missile the Metroids, right?
Right. The Ice Beam is hard required in any run of Novus.
Yeah, Metroids do have to be frozen. And back to game start.
I did not know that respawn will take you back to your ship anywhere in Criteria.
Yeah, that is one thing you can do to save a little time if you're trying to get from one of the elevators closer to Torian.
It seems that you have a question waiting for you in chat on Twitch, Vacant.
Oh, about the super bosses in Novus.
Correct.
Yeah. No plans to see those in Enigma. One of the big reasons is that the the AI for making those bosses work in Novus is very dependent on the room design and a number of other things. So getting that to be flexible enough for Enigma where people can design their own rooms, and it really benefits from having different room designs. Um, it's probably not going to work very well. So that's one of the big reasons. I also think having them exclusive to Novus gives Novus a little bit of originality compared to the other planets, which is nice. But we'll be seeing bosses like Spore Spawn in Enigma that aren't in Novus. So each one has its own thing going for it.
So I assume the Boost Guardian is next?
That would definitely be different and interesting.
Can we get other beams?
We might see some new beams in the future. I think like a big reason that hasn't been a priority is because right now in Enigma, the enemies don't really scale at all in their power or energy. So having an additional beam isn't going to be as important. But once enemies start scaling in their difficulty as you go through the world, another beam will be much more important. So we'll probably be seeing it after that.
Because there's like at least 3 different colors of screes and waivers I saw in Novus.
Yeah, some enemies have up to like 5 different levels, I think, in Novus. But right now in Enigma, they're all just level 1, so that's why the game's fairly easy in that sense.
It's killing me to watch someone single bomb jump after being such a double bomb jump master for so long.
I imagine that when we get Charge Beam implemented, that'll have to be DLC. MasterCard or Visa only.
Well, like, like there's those giant side hoppers that are only destroyable with missiles, but like, a plasma beam or a spacer beam might make that happen. I'd like it.
That is actually a pretty good idea, I think. Implement a couple of the super enemies, and not by Super Metroid, I mean just upgraded variants that, like you get in Zero Mission, where you need something with a lot more firepower to really be effective on them. Feels like Raining could really use a hint right about now, but sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
I've been throwing it to him.
Yeah. We've already seen a couple of, one enemy from the Prime series make its way into Enigma. And we might be seeing a couple more that should be difficult to deal with, probably require some more missiles or some alternate strategies.
Parasite Queen?
I don't know about that one for sure, but there are some concepts in the work there.
That one would be like fighting Mother Brain with a rotating glass shield in front of it. Time all your missile hits. Well, I will give Raining some credit for being persistent and not giving up. That is always a good thing to see.
Yeah. Despite not having any other racers to compete against at this point, the experience will help them out in any future races for sure.
Absolutely.
So how long has Raining Elementalist been around?
They joined the Discord relatively recently. I think maybe 2 months ago or so for a race. They jumped in straight away for a race, I think. So not very long.
And it's completely understandable that they wouldn't have this map down as much as some of the people who play this particular map regularly.
Well, I mean, like I've only been able to complete this huge world with a map up.
As for me, I'm retired from racing, but I still know the original game pretty well. And there it is. Congratulations, Raining. Now you just need to go back and get your revenge on that Metroid room. Now, it'll never happen, but Switch port win? Mostly joking. Although it'd be pretty amusing to see Nintendo publish something like this on their platform.
Yeah,
Unfortunately,
that's never gonna happen.
it would also come with the side effect that you wouldn't be able to do it on PC anymore, I'm pretty sure, so...
Yeah, no other OS ports are planned. Mostly just focusing on trying to finish Enigma. Perhaps after Enigma is done, there's a chance to kind of revisit that idea, see how feasible it would be. But we'll have to wait and see.
So, like, supposing that the engine was like reskinned per se, but some of these core elements, like we were talking about a little bit last night, how would an Enigma style feature work on like a game system?
Well, there's been a number of games that have like a roguelike map generation to them. I know a robot named Fight does that, and it's got a lot of different items and routes and such. So.
A robot named Fight is about as close to serial numbers filed off Super Metroid as you're going to get. And
True.
It has a ton of new material on top of that, even references to Mega Man and other things, but it is thoroughly Super Metroid.
Yeah, I think with a project like this where you're trying to stitch together community designed rooms, I don't think that would work very well in a commercial setting, just because the pathing that the room designers have to set for the rooms is so important for the world to be even just beatable. You know, a single room with the wrong pathing can break a world.
Right.
And,
This is problem that you don't get with Mega Man Maker
Yeah. So
or
I
Mario
think,
Maker.
Have you seen
I think-
20XX?
yeah, I played that, and that works pretty well. So I think in a commercial setting, probably you need to rely more on a set of rooms that are designed and
Curation.
packaged with the game. Yeah.
Well, like someone was saying earlier about how the touchscreen would make room making amazing.
Mhm.
Well, to be fair, you can test it out for yourself if you are lucky enough to get your hands on a Steam Deck.
Maybe once my child support comes in.
No, I do actually have a Q2 pre-order for one, so I may be talking to Vacant about that. I'm not going to ask for an officially sanctioned port or anything like that. It'll probably run the Windows executable just fine. But I will definitely be looking into how well that runs on there.
Yeah, that would be interesting to hear. Especially if Connect has any functionality on there, at least for joining games.
Might I suggest that the community? I mean, the community is still going to be around, but supposing once it does get ported, or a version of Enigma gets ported, what if it's just vetted rooms? Or I'm sorry, not vetted rooms, vetted worlds. Like we find a world that fits, it doesn't have any problems with any of the rooms, and then we just, deposit those somewhere. You have a few community moderators that play these worlds, these Enigma worlds, make sure that they're all on the level.
Well, I mean, that wouldn't be something you technically need, but it would be good also for PC users even after the thing goes out of beta. By the thing, I mean Enigma, in regards to the fact that having a curated set of, we know these are really good maps that have worked out really well, does give people more of a incentive to sit down and give it a try. To that end, now I know this is going to be a slightly more controversial take, but I think that we should also look into the option of potentially adding curated a set of rooms in the default package eventually with some of the highest quality community content. Not everyone's work is going to make it in there for obvious reasons, but we can add at least, a couple hundred of rooms for people to get started right off the bat without needing to dig through Discord to find packages. But that's something to talk about at very least. But either way, I believe this will probably run just fine on the Steam Deck. It's got enough GPU. It's got more than enough CPU. It's got built-in controls that'll work really well for it, and the room editor will work great with touch.
And Rainey's finally finished Mother Brain. They're on their escape, so they'll be just a couple more minutes and they'll be through.
Yep. And then we'll go ahead and give them an interview if they feel up to it, and see what they have to say about how they're feeling about this. Looks like they may not know this exit quite as well yet.
Now the way I
Change
did
progress.
this room before, was that the appropriate, quickest way?
Which route did you take? Was that the one on the left, one on the bottom, or the one on the top?
Essentially the same way that he eventually did.
Oh, yeah. I think that the left route might be technically faster if you have bombs. If you don't have bombs, then probably the top right route is a little faster.
Good idea for them to check their map one more time on the way out. Make sure they're going the right way. And there's clear.
Very nice. GG
Yes.
to Rainy.
Let's see what time they got on that, and then see if they want to do the interview.
I grabbed the missiles under the ship just as like a point of flare.
Yes, both of you in first and second place did grab those on the way out. So 1:54:39, not the fastest time in the world, but still, it is a completion.
Yeah, very nice for sticking it out and running it through to the end. All right, thanks, Sawa, for joining us and for the interview. We'll hop over to Rainy now.
Rock and roll.
Hello there.
Hello.
I imagine you're feeling probably slightly frustrated with the run, but you did pretty well, all things considered, and you stuck it out. Anything you feel positive or negative about your run that you'd like to comment on?
Very troll various location.
Yeah,
I
the
imagine-
various being in Ridley
Yeah.
was
I imagine you're not really familiar with that particular map yet, that it's still relatively new for you, right?
Yeah. This is my second time playing Novus.
yeah. So considering that, for as well as you handled the areas, the damage in warfare, the bosses, very good.
Absolutely. If you keep practicing on that, you'll be in the top 3, top 4, no problem, in no time at all. So we
Yeah.
definitely hope to see you in more of the races in the near future.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Any thoughts or feelings on Metroid Planets, or anything you'd like to say to the crowd that's been watching?
Well, that really fight. The first time I did this, which I think was last month, I spent like 4 or 5 hours fighting the second Ridley. So I was like, I don't want to do that again. So I want to see if I can find a way to cheese them or not take so long. And I figured, well, I got very soon a few E-tanks, so, I'm sure there's some way to cheese them.
Yeah, I saw you ended up kind of hanging out in the lava a little bit to try to avoid some of his attacks.
Yeah, it worked out. It's definitely a new strat.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely
Yeah.
seemed to help out quite a bit.
Yeah, I think that's maybe what won you that fight. So nice job trying to do something new.
Yeah. I do have a question, though. Was all bosses required?
Just the 2 super bosses. Those are the ones that open the gate to Tori.
I figured as much. Oh well.
So the other ones sometimes have useful items, but not required.
Well, I mean, I did enjoy having those E-tanks. They certainly helped out.
Hmm.
Yeah, Ridley kind of is the fight where if you're not running E-Tanks and Avaria, you might have a pretty rough time with that one in particular.
Yep. Well, I guess, like I said earlier, thanks for having me. I'll be
Well,
definitely joining the next race.
yes, we definitely hope to see you back for next month's race. In the meantime, feel free to ask for tips or suggestions over in our Discord if you're looking to improve your time on the regular run and get a better idea how the map works. People will definitely be glad to assist. And for the rest of us, I'm going to say I'd like to thank you for dropping in and watching with us today. And we will be back next month with another set of races. So this is Firehawk signing out for the night. I'm sure Vacant has at least a little more to say before he drops off.
Yeah. Thanks for watching, and thanks for commentating, Firehawk, and hopefully we'll have some good races in the future at some point. Till then, take care and stay safe.
See you next time.